Constructivism was developed out of social and developmental psychology in the early 20th century and seeks ultimately to explain how learners learn. Constructivism is not a pedagogy per se, but in fact a theory of learning, or how we learn. Jean Piaget, John Dewey, Lev Vygotsky, and Bruner are all important theorists in constructivism theory development. So, although born out of psychology, constructivism was easily and rapidly applied to learning in general and how schools could benefit from applying constructivist ideals. Essentially, the constructivist view in education is centered on the belief that learning happens through real, context-rich experience. Just like Piaget observed his 20-month-old son using physical actions like grabbing objects and putting them in his mouth to understand the object, so too do students need action-based learning. Indeed, it is not enough to simply rote learn and memorize, nor can a teacher simply tell the student the what, why, or how and expect them to understand it or apply it appropriately. Learning requires actual hands-on experience with appropriate problems that seek to cultivate the learner's critical thinking abilities. In doing so, learners scaffold new information onto existing information via mental constructs, thus building new scaffolds as new information is taken in and learnt, and those no longer required are left behind. Constructivist approaches to education are dynamic and learner-driven. Ideally, this means that the teacher is a guide who helps students along the right pathway to increase learning, but who doesn't simply tell the students what to do and how to do it. Of course, this isn't to say that there is no instruction at all. A science teacher may, for example, create a lab-based experiment with a guide and problems to solve based on the correct formulation of several chemicals. The correct solutions, therefore, are contained in the experiment, and a student must follow this properly to get it right. The teacher has provided the steps, the guide, and the student must follow these to proceed, learn. This is but one example of how a teacher is essential for the continued learning and successes of his or her students. I have chosen 3 ICT school tools to discuss. These ICT tools all lend themselves to be a useful support in a constructivist model of learning because they, A, can be designed for the learner. They can all be used on a spectrum from simple to difficult. This is important for learning as you can see real progress as you improve, which is essential for the diverse learner. B, they foster group work and creative problem solving. And C, they can be used in a safe and ethical manner. First up, we have Fuse, an online resource library utilising traditional text resources, multimedia, video, and interactives. Fuse has resources for early childhood, primary and secondary students, as well as teachers. The content is recommended and reviewed by educators and aligned with curriculum. Government staff, as well as students, can log in and upload or share content. This makes the use of the content ethically sound and safe, as students who want to upload content must do so through their school, and teachers vet all resources. This site is also great for diverse learners, as it includes a broad spectrum of subject and skill levels. For example, if you have a class of Year 7s, but you have a cross-section of interest and skill level, you might want to frame your literacy for grade 6 level and have them undertake this with a problem-solving game or quiz. This works well in a group too. On the other hand, those advanced students might be interested in creating video game design. Fuse can provide access to such resources. Another fantastic inclusion in Fuse is the inclusivity of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples into the learning activities. Here we can see the Indigenous songwriting competition, encouraging students to contribute with the language of their area. There are several researchers such as this. This is an excellent way to include Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students and culture into the daily curriculum. Next up is ABC Education, which provides free educational content to use at home and in the classroom. The resources are free and mapped to the Australian curriculum, covering English, maths, science, geography, history, the arts and technologies, including STEM, and are appropriate for primary and secondary students. Students can also get involved with competitions and educational events. ABC Education is a great tool to access science experiments and general skills in an interactive learning platform. Here we have an experiment that teaches pH by asking the student to maintain the correct pH of an aquarium. One great thing about this interactive is how it removes the need for a laboratory for this skill. Learning to accurately and consistently measure pH is an essential skill for scientists, especially those who work with solutions, such as pharmacologists, chemists, and doctors. This particular interactive is great because it allows the student to learn an experiment in a safe environment, while prompting the student to make predictions about the solution. This is great for the diverse learner as there are different levels of skill for the student to access. They can start with the level they are currently at and move up as needed. Further, this provides an ethical and safe platform for students, as it is a government website with content undergoing scrutiny to ensure it aligns with the curriculum, and it allows students to perform experiments in lab conditions without the need for a lab, and not all students have access to labs. Finally, we have Kahoot, which is a free online quiz resource for teachers and students. Teachers can design any kind of quiz they want and have students participate singly or in groups. The students themselves can also direct the format by designing questions, time to answer, whether there'll be prizes, and so on. Kahoot is great because it can be designed for all students' capabilities. For example, if you need to split the class individually or into groups based on which area of a textbook they are working on, questions can be designed with that in mind. As all students have access to laptops and/or smartphones, each group can easily have a tailored approach. This is great for diverse learners as it allows them to go at their own pace, or if they need to, have more advanced questions posed to them. It's also ethical and safe as the teacher has the control over the content and therefore ensure that the questions and answers are in line with the curriculum and what is acceptable. Thank you for watching this video on ICT and constructivist teaching.